There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from not knowing what to do next. You've been turning it over in your mind. The same questions, the same options, the same fear that whatever you choose, it might be wrong. And somewhere in the middle of all that, you stopped asking God, not because you stopped believing, but because you weren't even sure what to ask for anymore. If that's where you are right now, you're exactly where this is meant to find you. By the time we finish here, we're going to pray together, not for the whole road ahead, not for every answer to every question you're carrying. We're going to ask God for something smaller, and I think you'll find it's actually the only thing that matters right now. I remember a season in my life, I was around 36, when the exhaustion wasn't just physical. It was the exhaustion of not knowing which direction to go. Work, relationships, who I was supposed to be. Every decision felt like standing at a crossroads in the dark, and the thing that scared me most wasn't making the wrong choice. It was the silence. God felt quiet. And I didn't know if that meant wait or go, or that I'd wandered too far to hear him anymore. What I learned in that season changed the way I pray for direction, and I want to share it with you before we pray, because I think it's going to change something for you too. Stay with me. Before we go into this, somewhere in the middle of this video, we're going to pray something together that I think is going to feel different from how you've been praying about this. Not asking for the whole road, not asking God to explain everything, just the next step. I don't want you to miss that part. If you want something like this every morning, there's a new prayer here every single day. Subscribe so tomorrow it's waiting for you. And if this is something someone you know needs to hear right now, a like helps them find it. Okay, let's begin. There's a specific kind of stuck, not the kind where you don't have options. Sometimes it's the opposite. You have too many. Or you have one that feels important, and you don't know if it's the right one, and you've been sitting with it for days, maybe weeks, turning it over in your mind like something you can't put down and can't quite hold either. You run the scenarios, you make the mental lists, you talk to people you trust, and somehow, after all of that, you're still standing in the same place, still waiting for something to shift. And the worst part isn't the uncertainty itself. It's the exhaustion of carrying it. It sits in your body, in the way you wake up already heavy before the day has done anything to you, in the way a simple question from someone, "So what are you going to do?" can feel like pressure on a bruise. And underneath all of it, if you're honest, there's a fear that you're going to get this wrong, that you'll choose the wrong door, that you've already missed it somehow. If any part of that landed, you know exactly the place I'm talking about. And this video is for that place. Now, there's something most of us do when we hit that wall. I did it for a long time, and I don't think it's working the way we think it is. So here's what most of us do. We pray for God to show us everything. Not the next step, everything. We want to see the whole road before we take the first one, and we come to prayer with that request. God, just show me. Show me clearly. Show me completely. And then I'll move. I did this for years. I'd pray the same prayer over and over, asking God for total clarity. And when it didn't come, and it usually didn't, not the way I was asking for, I'd interpret that silence as one of two things. Either God wasn't listening, or I wasn't praying right. So I'd try harder, pray longer, find more words, and the more I did that, the more stuck I got. Because the thing I was asking for, complete certainty before movement, never came. And every day it didn't come felt like another day of failing to hear God, which added guilt on top of confusion, which made the whole thing heavier than when I started. We start reading the silence wrong. We ask for the full picture. God doesn't give it. And we wonder, is he quiet because I made a wrong turn? Is he quiet because this is outside his care? I'm not saying that's a faith problem. I'm saying it might be a prayer problem. Not the act of praying, the shape of what we're asking for. And when I understood why that shape doesn't work, something shifted. That's what I want to get into now. Here's the thing I had to understand first. Trusting God and understanding God are not the same thing. I was treating prayer like a transaction. I ask clearly enough, God explains his reasoning. and then I move. Like I was owed an explanation before I could take a step. There's a verse in Proverbs that stopped me when I finally read it differently. Trust in God with everything you have and don't lean on what you think you understand. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. I'd heard it probably 100 times, but I kept reading the second half first. He will direct your path. That was the part I wanted. What I was missing was the first part. Don't lean on your own understanding. That's not a suggestion about humility. It's a description of what we're doing when we demand clarity before we move. We're leaning hard on our own need to understand before we trust. And the text says, that's the wrong foundation. There's a verse in Psalms about God's word being a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I always imagined that like a floodlight, something that illuminates everything at once. But a lamp to your feet isn't a floodlight. It lights the step you're on, maybe the next one, not the whole road. The design was never for us to see everything. It was for us to have enough light for where we are right now. The direction doesn't come before the step. It comes with it. And one more thing. There's a passage that says, if you lack wisdom, ask God. He gives generously, without finding fault. Not, ask God for certainty. Ask God for wisdom. Certainty is knowing the outcome before you act. Wisdom is knowing how to act well, whatever the outcome. One removes the risk, the other equips you for it. I'd been asking for a guarantee for years, and God in His patience was offering me something better, the capacity to navigate what I couldn't fully see. And I kept sending it back, asking for the map instead. That's what I want to show you. But before we get there, just one moment. Before we get into the solution, if this is finding you at the right moment, hit subscribe. I post a new prayer here every single day. Some mornings you're going to need a voice that reminds you that you're not navigating this alone. And if someone you know is standing at a crossroads right now, share this with them. Sometimes the most helpful thing we can do for someone we love is put the right words in front of them. Okay, let's get into this. Here's what changed for me. I stopped asking God to show me the road, and I started asking Him to walk it with me. That's the shift, and I know it sounds small, but it isn't, because those are two completely different prayers, and they come from two completely different places inside you. The first prayer, show me the road, puts the movement after the answer. I'll trust you once I understand. It's faith with a condition attached, and the condition is clarity first. The second prayer, walk this with me, puts the movement inside the trust. I don't need to see everything. I need you with me while I go. That's not a small difference. That's the whole thing. There's a verse in Philippians that says, don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, bring it to God. And the peace of God, which goes beyond anything your mind can produce, will guard your heart. Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say God will give you the answer. It says His peace will guard your heart in the middle of it. The peace comes not after the clarity, but inside the prayer itself. So the prayer that works isn't structured around getting an answer. It's structured around getting God. Not God, show me which door, but God, I trust you behind whichever door I walk through. Not God, tell me if this is right, but God, be with me as I try to find out. Not God, remove this uncertainty before I move, but God, I'm moving, and I need you with me. I remember the first time I prayed like that. Really meant it. I was in my car on the way to something I wasn't sure about, and I just said, God, I don't know if this is the right call, but I'm not doing this alone. You're here, and that's going to have to be enough. And something shifted, not in the circumstances, but the weight changed. Because I wasn't carrying it as if the outcome depended entirely on my ability to figure it out. I was carrying it with someone who already knew what I couldn't see. That's what this prayer does. It doesn't remove the crossroads, it changes who's standing at it with you. The direction usually comes, not all at once, not as a map, but it comes as a next step that becomes clear Once you've stopped demanding to see steps 10 through 20 before you take step 1. That's the prayer I want us to pray together today. Not for the whole future, just for what comes next, and for God to be with us in it. Let me show you how. So let me walk you through this, not as a formula but as a shape, a way of coming to God that is different from what most of us do by default. The first thing is to stop, literally. Before you say a single word, put the phone down, step away from whatever you were in the middle of. Presence requires a pause, even 30 seconds, just enough to let the noise settle. The second thing is to name where you are, honestly. Not the cleaned up version, where you actually are. Say it out loud if you can. I don't know what to do. I've been carrying this, I'm scared of getting it wrong. The prayer doesn't begin with a request. It begins with honesty. The third step is where this prayer becomes different. Let go of the request for everything. Say it explicitly. God, I'm releasing the demand to understand the whole road. I don't need to see it all. I just need you. This is the step most people skip, and it's the one that changes everything. The fourth step is to ask for the next step only. Not the outcome, not the plan, just what's immediately in front of you. God, show me the next thing. The one I can actually do today. Be specific if you can. God doesn't need the prayer to be polished. He needs it to be real. And the fifth step is to ask for presence, not just direction. God, be with me while I figure this out. Stay close. I'm going to need you not just at the moment of decision, but in every step after it. That's the prayer. 5 movements. Stop. Name it honestly. Let go of the demand. Ask for the next step only. Ask for presence. It probably won't feel dramatic the first time. It might just feel like you said something true to someone who was listening. And that's enough. That's exactly what it is. Let me be honest with you about what to expect. The first time I prayed this way, there was no dramatic shift. The crossroads was still there the next morning, and I want to tell you that up front. Because if I don't, and you wake up tomorrow feeling exactly the same, you might stop. And stopping is the one thing that guarantees it won't work. Here's what actually changes. First, the weight. Within the first few days, something in the carrying of it gets different. The problem is the same size, but you're not holding it alone in the same way. There's a shift from I have to figure this out to I'm not the only one working on this. If you've been carrying something heavy alone for weeks, even that shift is significant. Second, over time, you stop reading the silence as absence. That pattern doesn't change overnight. But gradually, as you keep returning to this prayer, the silence starts to feel less like God is not there and more like He's working in something you can't see yet. And third, the direction arrives. Not as a dramatic sign, more like a conversation you weren't expecting, a door that closes in a way that finally stops feeling like failure. A version of clarity that arrives not before the step, but at the moment you take it. That's what this builds toward. Not certainty. Trust that functions without certainty. Now, a few things I want to protect you from before you start, because I made every one of these mistakes myself. The first, praying once and reading the silence as a final answer. The prayer isn't a request you submit and wait for processing. It's a posture you return to. One prayer starts something. Consistent prayer builds something. Don't confuse the start for the whole practice. The second, praying the right words with the wrong interior. Somewhere along the way it becomes routine. You're saying the words but not actually releasing anything, not actually naming the real thing. When that happens, start there instead. God, I'm going through the motions right now. I don't know how to mean this today. Help me mean it. That's a real prayer. The third, waiting for a feeling of peace before you move. The peace that goes beyond understanding doesn't always come before the step. Sometimes it comes during it, sometimes after. The invitation was never to move when it felt safe, it was to move with God. One removes the risk, the other gives you company inside it. Okay, you have everything. Now let me make starting as simple as possible. This week, pick one moment in the day and protect it. Morning works well before you check the phone. Evening works too, right before you sleep. 10 minutes. The point isn't the time. The point is that it's consistent, because consistency builds the posture, and the posture is what eventually produces the direction. For the first week, just show up. Don't evaluate it. Don't decide after 3 days whether it's working. Your only job is to return, once a day, to the same moment, with honesty. And if you can only do one thing tonight, say this out loud wherever you are. God, I don't know what to do next. I'm not asking you to explain everything. I'm just asking you to stay close. Guide the next step. I trust you with the rest. That's the minimum. That's the door. You have everything you need to start. Not to finish, you don't know how it ends yet, and neither do I. But to start. To bring this exact weight to God tonight and say, I'm here. I don't have it figured out. But I'm not doing this alone anymore. That prayer, small as it might feel, is the first step on a road that God is already on. You just have to walk onto it. We started this with a specific kind of stuck. I hope something in here shifted, not the situation, but how you're holding it. If this landed, leave a comment. Even just I needed this today. And if someone you know is standing at a crossroads right now, send this to them. Sometimes the most helpful thing we can do is put the right words in front of someone at the right time. There's a new prayer here every day. Subscribe so tomorrow's is waiting for you. You are not navigating this alone. I'll see you tomorrow.